Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Conn'Cast Podcast. I am your host Finn Tumber as always, and wherever and whenever you're watching this, I hope you're all having an amazing day or week, whenever you're watching it. I am joined today, I'm very excited for this episode. I am joined today with my very good friend Nick Millen. Don't say hi.
Hello.
I always get them to say hello, and it's always like a really awkward response.
Yeah.
Hi. It's like chucking him in and making him feel awkward. But Nick's here. How are you doing, Nick?
Yeah, I'm alright, you?
Yeah, pretending like we haven't spoke for the past hour.
Yeah, a bit longer than that, actually.
Been napping away for like the past hour. But at least we've got a bit of an idea what we're going to say. So
yeah,
I'll let you kind of take the wheel of this, Nick. But obviously, I think first thing I'd like to say is obviously, Con.
Yeah.
It'd be quite nice to say, obviously, so Nick, you can say it like
yeah,
yourself. You can say.
Well, I was... Like, Connor was my entire childhood. Like, first best friend that I ever had when I was in primary school.
Oh, my.
Yeah, like...
Was it just primary school? Did you go to preschool as well, or...?
No, I don't...
That's too long ago.
My memory's not that good. But yeah, like, all throughout primary school up until, like, secondary, when we all kind of got put into different communities and stuff, so got separated. We come back when they start getting mixed. But yeah, no, my childhood was pretty much with Connor, like as much as I can remember.
One of the stories I was going to say to you,
Yeah.
before I just said, I was talking to my mum earlier about you, obviously you coming on, and she said that when we lived over in Warren Close, we actually used to live in Sittingbourne.
Yeah, I remember
years
it.
before I was even born, that she remembers a story of like, I think it was more friends, but like you and Connor like running around. Did you like Thunderbirds at the time? I think it was something fun. It was something like that. Is a really embarrassing story to
something
bring
out
up.
of Doctor Who.
It was even out of Doctor Who, but you were like dressed up in something, and like you were just like, she remembers like you. God, I wasn't even born then, I don't think, or maybe I was just. You'd have been literally 4 or 5.
I think it would have been a bit older. I reckon you was born, because I remember you being in the house at some points as well.
Because I'm 4 years younger than you.
Yeah.
So, oh God, so you remember me? And
Yeah.
I was
So
literally
like, yeah, if I was around there and I was 8, you would have been 4.
You literally, you knew me before I knew myself.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I couldn't even walk. Oh my God. Because she just told me earlier, she was like, oh yeah, like, you remember that? And like, she said how much you knew Connor in that sense.
Yeah, how long ago that was. And then, yeah, like...
Crazy.
That was pretty much all of my primary school. And then coming in secondary school, like, we kind of found our own ways in year 7 and 8. It came back to, like, year 9. And we were, in class together. It was inseparable. Like, we were the ones in the class that you did not want to sit together because nothing's getting done.
You never, like, the teachers would do anything to split
exactly
you apart.
that. And, like, it was great. And then, we carried on being mates for years. And it was pretty much up to the last message I sent him was the night before everything happened.
I didn't know.
He was asking me for guitar lessons. Yeah, he's like, oh, would you mind teaching me guitar? And I was like, I'm well up for that.
I'm so sorry if you told me this. I can't remember. You might have told me when I was really overstimulated at a tournament or something. Yeah. He asked you for guitar lessons.
Yeah.
I actually did not.
Well, not necessarily like lessons, but
just music lessons.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like he's like, oh, I'm thinking about getting a guitar. Like, would you mind teaching me anything?
One thing with Connor, and like, I feel like when it comes to like mental health and stuff, Connor was someone that he did honestly try to make things better for himself. And I think a lot of people don't always know what Connor was like. Obviously, a lot of people listening to this didn't know Connor, but he had so many different hobbies. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but like he must have been like maybe 6 months before he passed. He got randomly, he was like, I want fish. I was like, okay, Connor, like, sure. He was like, no, I want fish. And he got like 20 or 30 tropical fish in this bloody like massive tropical tank. And he bought this like tank for like 300 quid off eBay. And like,
it's just so random.
Like, I love it. I love him so much. I love and miss him. We had so many different hobbies. So it doesn't surprise me that he asked you, because he was genuinely trying to make things better for himself.
It was quite nice as well, because I hadn't seen him for ages.
Oh,
so it would have been a nice way to just, see him again and hang out.
Icebreaker.
Like, I can't remember what we were talking about before, but that particular memory really stuck in my head.
Oh my God.
Because it was, the next day I was trying to message him and I wasn't getting a response, and obviously his story changes quite a lot.
Yeah.
But like, one of my really kind of like forefront memories as well is, I don't know if you remember the photo that I took of Connor.
No, there's a lot of pictures I've seen.
No. But there's one in particular where I photoshopped it.
Is it the Roman lot?
Yeah. And it's his head is on
everyone.
Yeah. So the other guy
Is it the one where he's like that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I love that photo.
And yeah,
was that you?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
That was Anne that was on one of the other episodes, and I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning it.
He will not care.
But originally, I just uploaded the photo of them too, and I was like, no, I'm going to do something with it.
Oh, it's so good. And you got like, the same face of him in every single one.
Yeah. And I think there's even some guy in the background, like at least 500 meters away, and he's just.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah.
I'm tempted to put it on like the over.
Just link it.
No, on this video, you'll see it in a minute. I'm literally going to put it up now.
Yeah.
And everyone can watch it as I watch it. Connor just everywhere on his photo. Unbelievable. That was iconic. Honestly, Roman lot. But I appreciate it's nice to know, like, obviously, Connor meant so much to you at that time.
Yeah.
He was a special soul, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing him up because obviously this is what this podcast is about. Like,
Yeah.
I love it when someone knows him. It's
Yeah.
just quite a nice way to share some memories about him and people know more about him. That's nice.
Like, there was like getting kind of like onto the topic of how things unrolled for me.
Please
like
do.
Situation.
Yeah.
Like I remember that morning very vividly myself because it was the night before he asked me for the guitar lesson.
Yeah. It was literally the night before.
Yeah. And I remember seeing something on his Snapchat, and it was of bad mental health. Like, he put a story up, and I can't remember what he'd said on it.
No.
But I hadn't seen that till the next morning because he would have posted it when I was asleep.
Yeah. Probably same with me.
And then, I saw it in the morning, and I was concerned that I was trying to message him and I wasn't getting a response. Yeah. And then I was worried. And I remember I started reaching out to other people as well. Like,
have you heard from Connor?
Yeah. Like, friends from primary school and stuff. I knew that we're still close.
Yeah.
And I finally reached out to one guy, and he told me, and he's like, "Do you not know?" And this was about 7 a.m.
Oh my god!
And very early.
It spread like wildfire.
Yeah,
didn't it? The news.
And then, then I found out, and I was still in bed at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously I sobbed. I couldn't believe it. It was a complete heartbreak.
It was a Monday morning. I think it was. It was Monday morning. It happened. Yeah.
I could not believe it at all.
No.
And then I remember thinking about one of my other friends as well that was very close to us.
Yes, yeah.
And my first thought was, oh no, like, I'm gonna have to tell him. And my concern then was for his mental health, because I knew that he hadn't been in the best mental health.
To hear that might be a bit triggering.
Yeah.
Well, not even just triggering, that's like traumatic.
Yeah, and I knew that your mum was friends with the family as well and stuff like that. So I knew that, you're going to have that close connection and catch up. But I was so concerned for his mental health at that point as well.
That's actually a different perspective I haven't heard before about Connor, because with me, one of the hardest bits on the day was actually telling people, like you just said.
Yeah.
It's not only like the shock of like what's happened, but it was like having to tell my older brother James, on the phone what's happened. Like actually saying the words.
Yeah.
Like Connor's.
And I think that's when it gets you more, because you've said it out loud.
That's a big thing in mental health, isn't it? It's huge. Not just about like when you're talking about like suicide and stuff, but it's also like just dealing with mental health in general. When you vocalize how you feel, it's like, oh my god, I actually feel this way.
Because you might feel it, but actually saying it and it coming to terms, it's completely different. And I was finding that telling other people.
With Connor, like obviously that morning happened and stuff. How did you kind of cope with that? Because I know you had other things obviously at the time. If you want to go into that, but I know you obviously had a lot on your plate at the time. How did you kind of navigate it all? Basically, it's quite a tricky question. It's a very tricky question.
I wasn't in the best mental health at that time anyway.
No.
But I pretty much just sobbed. I stayed in bed. I believe I got signed off.
Yeah.
It just kind of, like, I needed the time to grieve properly, because it's something that I'd learned from in those couple of years that you need to allow time and process to actually happen. So
like
much. You can't try and rush it. You got to allow your feelings to come out. So
much. I sometimes almost find myself coming across on this podcast as like being really positive. It's so important that you actually do give yourself that time. To just be sad. Like to just be sad, and that's so important. You can't just shut it off and go on with your day.
Well, it's bottling it, isn't it? It's
exactly
putting a lid on it, and that's not going to work.
That's how you have to deal with it at the time. Man, I didn't even know that.
So I had that time off. But I'd already had my own kind of dealing process with things like that as well. So it made, I suppose, the grieving a little bit easier. But I managed to just kind of take it into like bite-sized chunks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, kind of like break it up a little bit and just take it bit by bit.
Yeah,
okay,
and like allow myself that time, but in small doses.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
That's like nice, different things, and just remember nice things and stuff like that, and then speak to people about it, but don't do too much too quick.
I really like that. Instead of just trying to like get through, and because you need time to process things, which is why you break it up. You need to just give yourself that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're happy with moving on to this sort of story now, so obviously, like I said, I already said, like you obviously had a lot going on at the time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but like for me, my life completely changed in 2018. I want to make sure I got the years and times and that right, because my memory's so hazy. But it was January, end of January, 2018, and at the time, I was at work, and like these memories are really vivid, and I just remember
I was seen the Facebook post.
Well, I was just sat at my desk at work, and it was a like open office, and I remember someone coming over to me about 11 a.m. and putting his arm on my shoulder, and just saying, Nick, you need to go home. I was like, sorry? They're like, you just need to pack your stuff and you need to go home. I was like, something happened. They said, we can't tell you. We're not allowed to tell you. But we've just been advised that someone has contacted one of the other branches to try and track back here. Because this place wasn't allowed to be known. Like there was a hidden away bank, basically.
Oh, so it's very much hidden.
Yeah, so they had to contact other banks to get hold of this place, and they said, they've gone through this chain to get here to let us know that you need to go home.
That's all that was said.
And I was like, well, obviously, I start thinking, well, it's got to be bad then.
It's got to be awful for being told to go home. Like, and then at that point, your mind's just racing, or did you not even have to, you probably didn't even think, did you? Just in shock.
Like, the position I was in, like, I still had to kind of like finish what I was doing. Like, I couldn't just stop and go. So I had to carry on processing these bank accounts and then pack my stuff and leave. And people were like, what's going on? So I don't know.
No.
I really don't know. And then I was up into the canteen, I was grabbing all my stuff, and they were like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. Driving home. No idea, completely blindsided, and I get through the front door, and there's these people that look like investigators inside the house. And everyone's, in tears, and I was thinking, what is going on?
You're like,
and God. I remember just being told to sit down, and they said, it's it's unfortunate for us to tell you, but your sister passed away last night. That she had committed suicide. But at that time as well, it was a bit more hazy, because they said it's a possibility for suicide, but someone has been arrested on the scene as well. So there was a complication. Someone else was involved. So then you're very kind of...
Yeah.
But I just remember hearing that initial, like just out loud, and I just blew, like just burst.
Yeah. Like, you don't know what you...
No.
I don't know if I'm just trying to... not just trying to relate, obviously. Like, for me, it was like a state of shock. You don't know what you're doing or what,
you don't know anything that's going on anymore. Everything's gone.
You're not
functioning.
No, that's the way to word it.
Yeah. Like, everything... There's literally no other thought going through your head apart from this explosion that's taken up everything.
And you just can't.
And you don't know... And I remember, trying to calm down. My whole family's there.
Yeah.
And then come to terms with it. And I think, well, my work are waiting to hear now.
Yeah.
And I remember
having
to make the phone call to them.
To tell them when
I've just found out. And then telling them. And I think it took me about 15 attempts to say it, because I was just choking so much.
Yeah.
And I think speaking about those things out loud, like we said before,
it makes it more real.
Yeah. And every time I was trying to say it,
it got more and more real.
It was making it more and more real, and like your brain's not prepared for it to be that real.
No. When you're trying to process it in your own mind, and you're also trying to speak it aloud, it's just not right, and it doesn't feel real saying those words.
No.
I hope James doesn't mind me saying this, But just to kind of link with what you're saying as well, I will ask him, who's happy with me saying this. When I had to call him, he was living in London at the time, and I told him, I said, like, Connor's passed away. He's taken his own life.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact words, but I was just crying when I said it. I was choking up. I was like crying because I was in like, that's the first time I'd say it. And he just didn't speak for like 20 or 30 seconds. He was choking up, couldn't talk. We kind of ended the conversation like a minute later saying like, oh, you know, I just need to go, Finn. Like, something like that. I can't remember. I was in shock. Yeah. But I think if this is right, I'll check with James. But I think he said he just walked around. He got out of his office block and just walked around. He just lost count amount of times. He was just walking around his block. Just So I don't know if you can kind of relate with that when you try and tell your work. Like, it's just crazy.
Oh, yeah. Like, my memory's still hazy of all of it. And I think that is part of my coping mechanism, which it now isn't in my favour because I can't remember anything. Yeah. But I think that's what my brain ended up doing, was just trying to shut away some of these memories.
Switch off.
Just to cope.
Switching it off.
But I think that's being post-trauma. Like, going through that at the time, it's very different. Everything's very open doors. You're really in the forefront of the firing line, and like
100%.
Everything's so intense, and you know, every time you see someone and they ask you how you are, it's really difficult. Like, at least for the first week, you just can't. You don't want to talk about it. Almost like there's no words to express how you're feeling,
and you almost don't want to talk to anyone anyway.
People
like, not in a nice way possible. Like,
for me, it was like I've gone into shutdown. I've switched off. Like, your brain is completely burning itself up, just trying to process, you know, the trauma it's gone through.
I also found with people and like just my friends in general, you know, all my friends that are kind of talking to me about it, I feel like they struggled to actually contact me. They did, but they didn't know what to say. That's nothing on them at all. But obviously some people I didn't speak to for a while that are really close friends, because it's just a really tricky. I can try and put myself in their shoes and go like, how do I even talk to my best mate who's just lost his brother to suicide? Like, it's such a crazy thing. And the support was great. I hope you had support.
It was very mixed. I found like the people that I thought would have been there weren't. And then, you know, in the same light, I was surprised at some of the people that came forwards and said, you know, like, you know, I hope you're doing all right. I'm always here. And it was people that, you know, would have least expected to actually come forwards, and, you know, it gave me more respect for them as well. But it's only as far as knowledge goes. You know, some people might not have been aware and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But with my circumstance as well.
Yes.
There was, like, when I was going through it, it was kind of very. It spread like wildfire.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Kaylee knew everyone. Like, she just knew everyone. Some people were better than others, though. Some people were nicer than others, and I remember getting a phone call from Connor, funnily enough.
Wow.
And he was out in the high street somewhere, and he was like, you know, he was very much asking me how I was doing and stuff, and he said, he's like, I'm just in town at the moment, and, like, I understand what you're going through. He's like, but there's people in here talking about your sister. They're being quite disrespectful. Did you want me to go and say something? And he's like, I just want to make you aware, like, this is what's being said from my perspective. Like, do you want me to go and say something? And I was really, like, amazed that, you know,
he even said that.
Yeah, he was the only person to as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was out on the firing line. Yeah, and he went and spoke to them. I don't know who these people were.
No.
But, you know, I was getting these. Some people were sending, like, very kind of disrespectful messages on how did it happen and stuff like that, and they want the details.
I hate it.
So I'm not here to share those details with you.
One thing, sorry, just with my story as well. I'm not trying to take anything. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the same.
Sorry,
same thing.
I just want to say with me, that part of it was when the KM article went out the same day.
Yeah.
About that there was ambulances and police cars outside my house, and I do remember someone commenting, I don't really care. I don't care if they say it just they just commented saying like, oh, probably like a drugs bus or something. Yeah. It just irked me so much. Yeah. Like, and then some people really nice saying, wait till you hear details, blah blah. Yeah. That's different, obviously, post.
But I think it's very different when people in their own circumstances as well. Yes. Like, and at that time, you're not going to want to see something like that commented on something that's so fragile and
100%,
because they've got no idea. Yeah. But, you know, in their perspective, they don't have any idea.
No.
maybe don't jump to that conclusion and write something like that on there.
100%. I'm so proud of Connor, actually. I did not know Connor.
Yeah.
Actually went out of his way to not only like tell you, but then actually go and put it right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
what a man.
Yeah. Like,
what a man. With your sister as well, obviously with all of that. I think you said you wanted to talk about like the whole timeline from like when it first started. So you said it was January 2018, wasn't it?
Yeah, the very start.
I do remember, and I remember like Connor was like he got so like he gets not hurt, but it really did impact him. And I remember from him hearing about it. So I'll let you kind of take lead of this. So
I think at the very start of it, it was very much hit the papers, like the same situation that you had and stuff like that. But I was kind of in a fortunate position that I managed to go away on a holiday to Mexico at the time.
Yes.
And I was very in two minds about it. So it was, like whether I was going to stay with the family during this period or whether I go away and I try and, care for my own mental health first kind of thing. Yeah. And it would be that kind of give and break. And I knew it wasn't necessarily going to be, the holiday that I dreamed of anymore, but it was going to be somewhere away and a break and just maybe something that could take my mind off it.
Yeah. 100%.
So, I was in that fortunate position where I did go away and I could grieve by myself. And like for me, it was very much that I have more heartache seeing other people go through it. Like I find that even harder to process, and I'll start putting my own feelings aside and start looking out for other people's feelings first.
It's almost like what I said in the other episode about being like a giver. Like you want to help other people before looking after yourself.
Yeah, and you're just parking your feelings. You're putting it on the shelf because you're like, I want to help everyone else first. Yeah. But that's not going to happen if they're not there to do that for. And it's kind of 100%. Isolate myself from that situation. So I've got no choice but to kind of like feel my own feelings and try and process it. And one of the things I remember distinctly was when I was out there was it was like lunchtime and it had finally hit the papers.
Oh, while you're out
whilst I was out, so because it was a very quick turnaround between what had happened and me going away.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And I just remember reading it at lunch and just happened to go for a really long walk, because it was another one of those things that made it more real. Like reading it from like third person and how they just kind of put it factually.
Yes,
well, to an extent.
Yes, which obviously
in the papers.
It's another whole story. When it went factual.
But it just makes it hit home a bit more.
It's almost like we said about earlier about vocalizing and actually telling someone what's happened. And it's another thing.
And it's weird because you start thinking of different things to cope, and I feel like your imagination kind of like takes over, and you try to process things with your imagination helping. Like for me, an easier way of me coping was she's just gone away. Oh, like she's not necessarily past it. Like she's just gone away. Like she'll be back. Yeah. And I knew that wasn't true, but it was the way I was just trying to pick at it and like break down that emotion. But there was like I experienced weird things happening during that period, which I can't explain. I'm not into supernatural and all of that kind of stuff. But we'd only just decided on her funeral song, which was "The Scientist" by Coldplay. Great song. Really nice song. And I remember I was in Mexico at the time, and I was on the beachfront by the water, and my mum's messaged me, and she said, "Oh, we're just lighting candles for your sister. We're all here. We've all lit a candle each for her in a church. We're just, spending some time." Yeah. And as soon as she sent me that,
do not tell me,
The Scientist started playing on this PA on a beach in another country.
The Scientist in the middle of Mexico.
Yeah, that's things like that I can't explain.
I know you're saying not even supernatural, but oh my, that is pretty ironic.
Like, and then that was it. I was
coincidental
because I was coping really well with just speaking to my mum about she's gone to church. I thought it was all lovely. That was just my writing off point, and I was like, no, I'm off again. And that makes it really hard to remember that holiday because of how much processing it took.
Did it, looking back in hindsight as well, now that you've kind of you've been there, you've done it, looking back, are you happy you did that?
Yeah.
I think it's
I'm glad I took that time.
Yeah.
I feel like I could have done it a bit differently. I think it's more paying attention to looking after yourself first.
Yeah.
Put yourself first.
Yeah.
Just it's difficult. Like it gave me a reason to isolate myself beyond factors that I could help from other people's emotions.
Yeah. With like the grieving process, because I'm trying to set like how I felt. I'm trying to see what you thought. I found myself kind of like not coming to acceptance of it and kind of pushing it to the back of my mind.
Yeah.
So like for 6-7 months after he passed, I was just out every weekend, and it was only when COVID hit, I actually came to accept it. It hit me more. I don't know whether you linked to that, or did Mexico help you?
It helped me a bit. Yeah. Working along the timeline.
Yes, going through.
We didn't have closure for 2 years because the inquest took 2 years because of the amount of complications, and this is how I know COVID's been probably mentioned on every single episode now. But
it's such a big one, though. It is.
But COVID really hit the inquest.
I still can't believe it was 2 years.
Because you couldn't have people meeting up, and
no,
things were just taking longer. Processes were taking longer,
of course,
and
it's in COVID.
It's all in the police force. And at the very start, it was with major crimes.
Yeah.
Because of how it happened. I'm not going to dive into the whole story. It's all online.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to read the actual situation. Yeah. But, it started with major crimes, and it was. They kind of held out the story for a while, which was very difficult to process because we wasn't given a crystal clear, she has taken her own life. And then it kind of led my family down different paths of their own closure.
The conflicting views of...
Yeah, so, there's situations where, family members want to go, I want to blame someone.
Yeah.
Because I can't see them doing that.
Exactly.
This is someone else's fault. So, that's going to be their way of coping. Whereas my own way of coping with it was just to try and not go down that route and just close it rather than get too trapped into why it's happened. And more respecting not why it's happened, because it has happened. I can't change that it's happened.
Accepting that it's happened.
It's just accepting that it's happened. Let go of why. Because... there's so many different paths you can go down with why. Like, what could I have done that was different?
Yes.
Like, what if, and it's never going to end.
I can't remember if it was Cam or Aaron from the other guests, but they said about how no one grieves the same. And people in different stages. That almost sound like you had a bit of acceptance, whereas other family members, I don't know this, but it almost sounded like I had, like, anger is one of the 5 stages, or, like, the what ifs. Yeah. And you start to put anger on other people. Is that kind of what it was, you'd say?
Oh, yeah. I went through that, but it was quite quick. It was just I was just trying to come to terms with it instead of why it's happened. So I had very different emotions towards the situation. Like, one of my first thoughts was, you've got to be very brave to do something like that. So that was an emotion. Because, I think that's,
to take your life. You're like, whoa, that's such a crazy thing. Yeah. I can't even comprehend it.
Yeah, then there is anger, like, why are you so selfish? Why have you done this? Because thing is with suicide is you're not fixing anything. You're just passing on to the next person.
Passing it on. The pain just gets passed on to other people. Yeah,
that's all you're doing. You're just giving it to someone else. It's not fixing your own situation.
Exactly. Of course I don't mean to. No. But that is what it's it is. Yeah. And for myself, like, that was one thing that helped me cope as well, because I thought I could never be that person to pass on that pain to someone else. Yeah. Which is why I've never been, in that situation, because I thought, it doesn't matter how bad I felt. I could never, ever...
No, definitely after you experience it as well, and you think, I would never wish this on anyone.
Yeah, 100%. I actually went to therapy after Connor passed, and just linking on what you said, I remember my it was a CBT therapist, and he kind of said, like, trying to help me understand suicide, because I was kind of thinking, God, like you've just said, a bit of anger, like, why could I do this? Why did I do this? Exactly what you said about how you pass on the anger, the pain gets passed on. Yeah. And he went to me, and it was something like how when someone decides to take their life, it's kind of like it's because they've explored all options and how they can make their lives better, and they feel like the only possible way is by taking their life. And I found that quite interesting. And I still don't understand it though. Like, and I try to.
I have felt like that.
Yeah.
I've been through different therapists.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I think it depends on your brain process and how intense the emotions get, because you can fall down a hole. It depends how deep it is and how many like obstacles you've got to get back out of this hole.
Climb out of it.
And it's sometimes it's just having something there to get you back out that hole, to get you going again, because it's always that first jump's the hardest, and then you're like, no, it's actually okay.
That's such a good point, that the first jump being hardest.
It's a very like, you just need to snap out of it, and it's easier said than done. But sometimes, it's a hobby, it's a friend, it's a pet, it's anything that you find love for is enough to get you out of that really difficult situation, because it can be easy for some people to feel like there is no other options. And there always is, because what my therapist said to me a lot was nothing's ever permanent.
I like that.
To an extent, like, you can make something permanent if you want to keep it permanent.
But your mindset.
But because they were kind of using it very aimed at me, like, your mindset's not permanent. You can change your mind however you see fit. You can really train your own mind, but it's scenarios that you're in. It's your lifestyle, it's your job, it's your family. Like, if you want to change something, there's nothing stopping you.
And it's trying to trick you, trick your brain, but tell your brain that. And that's the hardest bit. Sometimes.
I think for a lot of people, they can just feel, I'm trapped like this. This is it, and there's no way out. No, it's not permanent. Nothing.
It's not permanent.
I know, it can sound easy in hindsight, like,
oh, just change.
It's small steps, but it's you start by writing it down. You start by breaking it down. You pick at it and think, this is how A and B is going to happen. What am I going to do to get to B? And you start making these lifestyle changes.
I think with that as well. Not even I think, but it's almost like you say, writing things down logically, because sometimes your brain, when you're in a hole, again, I'm quite fortunate that I haven't had to, I feel this, and I haven't been like this low, and I'm quite fortunate I haven't. But the way I kind of understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but like, when you're in this really deep hole, you kind of like think logically, like you said, like, okay, the first step can be just something small, like drinking water. I know it sounds so silly, but just something small.
Move to a different room.
Change something up small back in life.
just
the smallest step.
Just something that you think is going to help your mindset.
And just having that logical, like you said, A to B. Like, okay, I don't know if you Ant's episode last week, but he said about how wanting to change, is it my job? How am I going to do that? How am I going to do this?
Exactly that.
Is that kind of it?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And there's, it's little things, but if you can get into a habit of forcing yourself to go and do this thing, when you get into that mindset, it really helps. Like, just go for a walk. Like, just put a coat on, go out for a walk. And just try and clear your head, that kind of thing. Like, it can be easier said than done. I'm quite fortunate that I've got a dog, and if I want to go for a walk, so we'll grab the lead and we'll go out.
Bring
and
the four-legged guy.
The mood that I left in will be completely different to the mood that I come home in. That kind of thing. I mean, I could be fortunate for him as well, because he's been with me for a lot of my mental journey, but it's like having a pet really helps me.
Oh, it's it's the company, and oh, it's so good, isn't it? And they don't talk, and they don't know what you're going through.
No, you've got a made up voice in your head of what they're saying and how they speak. But
they're great dogs, honestly. So when you were, like you said, I didn't know that, like, you're on your whole. I'm so appreciative you told me that, Nick. But were they the sort of things that kind of helped you when you were feeling like that? Just the small little things, or like just a simple A to B. For me, I write things down.
And having someone to talk to as well. I remember phoning someone at 3 a.m. and they just really calmed me down. I just had to reach out to the person, and they did pick up, and it really helped.
What did they do?
They just reassured me about everything. They just started talking to me, and I think it was just it ended up being like general chit chat just to try and keep my brain focused on something else and just really kind of desensitize the situation.
Was it kind of like having the calm temperament from them as well?
Yeah, and have someone to talk to, because like your mind can spiral. It can have a domino effect, and if you don't stop the dominoes from falling, then it will just keep going. So having that person to jump in,
crazy,
it really helps. And that is just it's that whole motion of just speak to someone, just reach out to someone, and that kind of thing.
So I completely agree.
So
going back to the timeline as well. So obviously, I think we came off from where you said about how your family had different sort of. I don't want to say like, well, more than me. It's your family. They kind of had like different views. Would you say was that kind of so going back?
We grieved at different paces as well, which is very normal.
Exactly.
Which I think, it affects what emotions you're going through at that time, but I think where we didn't have the closure, it made it very difficult for us to really put it to bed, because it was very open. We had to keep having these meetings and stuff, and we'd have the police around ask further questions, and this went on for years.
You had visits, like
we had visits. It really brings it up, and it'd be booked in, and they'll come round and
makes it real again, because it's
and it's constantly going. I came back from Mexico, and we had the funeral straight away.
So this is in obviously 2018. This
is still early 2018. And we had the funeral, and it was a really nice day, and we kept it really small, just family.
Nice.
Even though she knew like everyone.
It's kind of contain it.
I think what my family could just about cope with doing the actual day, let alone trying to organise, who's coming and who's not. So it was just keep it to family. We keep it really close.
100%.
Because we did have people asking if they could come. And it was a very difficult conversation to have with some of these people.
Trying to tell people that.
And then it was more, we gave them a place to visit instead, because we said, we just want to keep this separate, we just want the family to have its own time and respect and stuff, and then we understand that you're grieving as well, but we'd just like to do it separately, so 100%. We'll tell you where to go and stuff like that. But people did arrange their own, gathering and send-offs and stuff like that. I know they set off like balloons and lanterns or lit candles or something.
That's nice,
I know Steph was a part of that as well.
Yes.
My sister Steph.
People
don't know who Steph is.
Obviously I know Steph, but people are like, who?
But then I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning her name.
Oh no, you can ask her, or I can. But I'm sure she won't mind.
I remember that period then. I was signed off for about, I want to say about 5 weeks. I wasn't necessarily signed off that whole time, because 2 of those weeks were booked as holiday. And what I wasn't really in the mindset to process was my work was like, you need to start coming back to work now. And I was like, I don't think you really get it.
No, they don't, do they? It's not.
And like I remember getting back to work, and they said that I was off with anxiety. I was like, I wasn't off with anxiety. And the allowance at
what sorry, I've just processed that.
It said I was off with anxiety, not anything to do with what had actually happened. I was just off because I was anxious. That's what they'd put at that time.
That's awful.
And I remember that really kind of running me down. I was like,
that would mess me up as well. What?
But I remember just before that, there was someone I was friends with at the time as well, and I worked with them. And I knew that I'm going to try and not say gender either.
Keep it they them was what we're doing.
But I remember they didn't have their best mindset and stuff. And they'd been speaking to me about their mental health, and I'd gone to work with them and stuff like that. And then there was one night again, they'd put up something quite upsetting, and I remember trying to get hold of them in the morning. I was really quite concerned in the morning because of their past and how their mental health had been in their past as well. I couldn't get in touch with them at all, and I contacted work, and I said, has this person come into work? And they said, no, they've not shown up.
And did they raise alarm bells, or you just don't
no,
know?
so they said they've just not turned up.
Okay.
Like, they've just not turned up to work. And so I said, right, like, you're gonna have to like really trust me on this. You need to contact the parents. You know, you need to get involved. You need to get round to their house. And the person that I was actually speaking to was aware of how their mental health was.
Wow.
So they got round to their house.
Oh, Nick.
And the situation unfolded that they'd put themselves in hospital. Basically, I don't want to give too much away. But you know, it was fortunate that someone could get there in that kind of time frame.
And how lucky was it that you actually did give them that call to work? Yeah,
I don't know whether it was just me, but from my perspective,
you would have definitely still been a factor to that. I'm sure.
It was just my situation, the way it was at that time. Like, it was ringing like every alarm bell in my head, and I was like, I do not want to go through this again.
I think like I said, I think it's like I said before, like you kind of noticed the warning signs a bit more.
Well, there's like the warning signs, like with theirs was quite obvious. You know, a lot of the time some people do go to social media and stuff like that, and you know, they'll post something upsetting on there saying, you know, they've just literally put their emotion, how they're feeling. Yeah, and you know, straight away, like, I need to speak to them. And that was what that was in that circumstance, and that's the same with when I was concerned about your brother. Connor. But
he put something on Snapchat, I think, the night before.
But when it was my sister Kaylee, I remember being at home the night before everything happened. That night, she was like, she came skipping down the stairs, and she was like, I'm off for a meal now. You know, I'm gonna go out for.
Was this Kaylee? Sorry.
Yeah, this is Kaylee, and she was like, I'm gonna go out for a curry. She was in, you know, really good spirits, and I was like, okay, have fun or whatever. And she said that, you know, she's gonna go pub first. She just paid for holiday, really good mood. Wouldn't know any different. Wow. And there's literally nothing that I could have known come the next day that any of these events were going to unfold.
So you say about warning signs, but actually
there was none. God. Not for that particular night. I mean, you know, she's never had the best mental health. She had gone to doctors. I think there was something that came out that they believed it was going to be a phase, and she didn't get the right attention or support.
A phase.
That it was going to be a phase that, you know, she'd get over.
Oh, I don't even like that. They say that.
I was kind of put in the same situation as well. It wasn't necessarily a phase, but I feel like to get mental health support, that you've got to push for it more than you should need to.
100%, you do, don't you?
Yeah.
Again, to say about brother Connor, I'm sure I'll check with my mum and stuff. I'll be happy saying this, but he almost got sectioned. Yeah. Must have been maybe 3 or 4 years before he passed.
Yeah.
He was in a really bad state. Like, I won't go into detail what he was doing and stuff, but I must have been like maybe 13, no, maybe 14, I don't know. But it was a few years before he passed. And he went away to wherever the unit is. I don't know if it's Medway or not. I don't know where it is. I think it's Medway. And I basically like looked at him and just said, "Oh yeah, you're not that bad." Like, that's literally what I'm paraphrasing it massively.
Yeah.
But like you just said, it's because almost like he like I'm not trying to. It wasn't Connor's fault. But you almost have to scream from the rooftops. Yeah. And it has to be like the absolute last minute. Yeah. Or it's too late. Yeah. And that's when you get this support. And it's terrible. And like I still remember that. And I'm thinking how things could be different if Connor just managed to get... Like, just to get into it.
But then it's falling into the world of what ifs, isn't it?
You got it.
And then you get trapped in it. And you've got to really get yourself out of it.
And it's like the whole grief, like I said, the 5 stages of grief, you're always in it. I don't think it ever leaves you, the grief. Yeah. I'm always...
Oh, yeah. I think grief separate to why did it happen? Yeah. I feel like grief...
It's separate.
Is coming to terms with it happening.
I agree with that,
and accepting that the person that you love isn't there anymore.
Yeah, but you still have the grief even when you do that. Saying. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so I feel like, for me, it's kind of two aspects. Why they're not here and accepting they're not here. That I try to separate the two, and that's helped me process it better. Yeah. Separating the two. Yeah. I try to let go of why are they not here, to allow me to process.
No, it's interesting
that they are gone. If you know what I mean.
Like you said about how was it similar? If I might get this wrong, but how you said that you always thought like Katie was like away for a while. Is that kind of what you mean in a way in that sense? Or?
Well, no, like it was. I know people that got like stuck in a situation. We struggle with that closure still going along that timeline. We still don't know why she had passed away at this point.
And like you said before, we just
you know, one of the possibilities was suicide. At the time, and that was what I was gonna kind of use as my closure was. But it wasn't necessarily falling down the path of why are they not here, you know, what's happened, who am I going to blame, was it herself, why did she do that? Don't get blamed in that, don't get stuck in those emotions, you know, because then, you know, you're burning yourself out trying to process why it's happened
in the first place.
But I feel like the grief needs to take place in accepting that they're not here. I'm hoping that's kind of making sense.
I'm a bit of a slow processor. So this is the part 1, I'm going to call it. We don't know if there's going to be a part 2 yet, but this is the end of part 1 because I can't stop yapping. We both love yapping, me and Nick, apparently. So that's fine. But yeah, this is the end of part 1. So stay tuned next week for the next part. And we'll see you guys then. Until next time.